Welcome back to the weekend wrap. A little later than usual, so apologies. I didn't get a chance to see everything last night. I was a little busy, slept a little late, so I watched everything a little while ago. Minus the Crawford fight, I still haven't actually found that one to watch yet, but I will find it. Obviously I know the result. Just come back from the gym, hence I'm in my gym gear. But I wanted to get this out before I did anything else, just to make sure that everyone, you know, gets their weekend wrap, basically. So, without further ado, let's jump straight into the Matchroom card, as that was the first one of the night. Right, so first things first, before I get to the co-main and the main event, quick shout out to Metcalfe. He did very well against Pennington, ended up making Pennington quit after the 7th round, I think it was. So he quit in the corner. Well, he didn't quit personally, like the corner pulled him out. But yeah, he was moving, you know, quite a bit, being a bit negative, but he did try to engage after a little while, but he seemed to have no gas tank, so I don't really know what happened there. And that actually was a bit of a running theme on the show. There was a lot of people whose gas tanks looked like they ran empty very quick for innocuous reasons. But shout out to Metcalfe, he moves on in the 154 division, see where he moves next. So after the little break of the football match, you had Felix Cash versus, I think his name's Carlos Neves. If that's incorrect, I apologize, but I know the surname is Neves. Anyway, long story short, Felix Cash was totally and absolutely garbage. 100% garbage. I've got some other takes, but I'm gonna save those for Monday Night Smoke tomorrow. So if you wanna hear everything I've got to say, tune into Monday Night Smoke on Undefeated Podcast. All I will say is, not having to boil down to 160, you know, coming in at 166 pounds and faltering and gassing out pretty much after the second, maybe third round. Yeah, some questions need to be asked, basically. I'm also not happy for that on a personal reason, but that's besides the point on this occasion. But it just was a very lackluster, very uninspired performance against someone that was tailor-made to just sort of come forward and allow you to tee off on them. And he made a very hard night's work of that. Now, moving into the co-main event, I gotta give the flowers to Ebanie Bridges. You know what? It's actually weird. I've been wrong twice with Ebanie, because I thought that Ebanie was gonna beat Shannon Courtney, and she ended up losing. But then I thought that Shannon O'Connell would beat her, and she ended up winning. And not just winning definitively with an 8th round stoppage. Now, I've got a little bit of reservations about the stoppage. While I don't disagree with it and say that, you know, it was fine, I always have an issue with a referee stopping a fight when the other opponent is still throwing back. Whether, you know, if they don't hit the floor and they're still throwing, you leave them in the fight, in my opinion. Now, I can obviously understand, yeah, you know, people taking way too much punishment, and if you was just maybe throwing one sweeping shot here and there and it doesn't touch, and it, you know, it's thrown wide and wild, and then you just get teed off on again, possibly jumping in. But in this instance, while Shannon O'Connell was wrecked, like, you know, the face was busted up, like she was, you know, she was clearly exhausted, tired, like nearly dead on her feet, but she was still exchanging, she was still throwing, she was getting caught with a lot of clean shots, but she was answering. So I always feel like if they don't drop, or, you know, they end up having their arms just down by their side taking shot after shot, then you kind of leave them in there, because she was still having success and she was still throwing shots and they were still having some effect. That being said, I did say in the pre-fights that if anyone was going to get the knockout in this fight, it would be Ebanie on O'Connell, probably with a check right hook. That was my prediction, or overhand right hook during an exchange of punches. I just thought that O'Connell would maybe just outwork her, try to keep her a lot longer at range, at distance than she did. Although I got to give it up to Ring IQ, me and him spoke behind the scenes, and he basically pointed me in the direction of a couple of other fights where it shows that she doesn't use her height and her reach to her advantage a lot of times. She comes in crouched with a lot of bent arm shots, and she basically played into Ebanie's game, which is what I said she might end up doing in the fight. I just thought that Ebanie's gas tank would fail her sort of after the 5th round if she didn't get her out of there, and then, you know, O'Connell will probably come towards the back half. But while Ebanie's gas tank like depleted as well, she managed to find the will to push through. Shannon O'Connell, I don't know when they came over from Australia, but it may not have been soon enough. I don't know if it's jet lag, I don't know if it's overtraining, I don't know if it's changing climate. I'm not making excuses for her, but the fact that she was basically gassed out from the end of the 2nd round, I've seen her before. I've never seen her that tired that quickly. So yeah, it didn't really look, you know, that it looked a bit funny. That's all I'm saying. But that takes nothing away from Ebanie. Like I said, she's a dog. She did what she needed to do. She roughed her up. She's actually very strong physically, which is one thing that I did feel like if they get in exchanges and in clinches, Ebanie's gonna take that, because, you know, former bodybuilder, she's the shorter, stockier girl. You can see that if you look at the two of them at 118 pounds, Ebanie looks like, you know, solid, whereas O'Connell looks a bit, you know, gangly and sort of skinny, and, you know, just there's not much there. But Ebanie looks like her frame is built for that size. So yeah, overall great performance from Ebanie Bridges. Prove me wrong, but I've always been on the train, but I try and do these things objectively, and yeah, she rolls on to the next one. So yeah, congrats to her. I know I heard she's got a hand injury at the moment, so she's got to get that sorted out, and we'll see what she ends up with in the new year. Moving on from that, I've got Josh Warrington and Luis Alberto Lopez. Now, I predicted Lopez was going to win by knockout. He didn't get a knockout, but he won fairly no, that's a lie. It wasn't comfortable. However, he did win quite clearly to me. I actually scored it the same as the judge. I think his name's Adam Height. 115, 113. We even had the exact same rounds that we gave to each person. But I wouldn't have argued if there was a draw. I don't think Warrington did more to get more than a draw from that fight. But if someone said he managed to pick up 6 rounds, I wouldn't have argued. But Alberto Lopez was just a lot more busy and a lot more active in the first half of the fight. He threw really powerful shots. Not a lot of them landed. Warrington did do quite well at sort of tucking up and avoiding shots and taking some stuff on the gloves and on the arms, but a lot also did get through, and it was quite telling that he was feeling those shots and those punches. You know, we had classic headbutt gate. Were they legit? Were they accidental? Were they intentional? Like, not sure. I feel like there was one of them that definitely was. I think I saw 3 in the fight altogether. One of them, to me, definitely wasn't just a coming together of heads. It looked like it was a deliberate follow through after a punch. But, you know, that being said, it feels like the same thing has happened in the last 3 fights consecutively. It's hard to now imagine that it's all accidental, because while there were some previously, it wasn't that many. It wasn't fight after fight after fight. But when you've had now 3 fights consecutively, all coming after the first Lara knockout loss, it feels like that's now it's almost like a default setting to almost fight fire with fire. But who knows? Anyway, look, Alberto Lopez moves on with Top Rank. Apparently, it might be a title defense against Michael Conlan as his first defense. Conlan got a 1-round KO of Kareem Guerfi last night as well. So they're both on the same schedule. Makes sense. We'll see what happens. But that's the end of Matchroom. Let me move over to Top Rank right quick. Okay, so on the Top Rank card, I saw some very impressive performances from both Keyshawn Davis and Xander Zayas. The only thing that they didn't end up getting was the knockouts, but Keyshawn looked a lot closer to the knockout than Xander did, but they both acquitted themselves well, slightly different. Xander Zayas basically sort of stayed in the pocket, took a couple shots, but rode a lot, stayed up close and just worked away body and head. Whereas Keyshawn Davis was a lot more sort of, you know, stay behind the guard, slip shots, come in with the hard counters, good combinations. Wasn't totally sitting down 100% on the shots that he was throwing, but he was definitely cracking both to head and body, and it's only just due to the toughness of the opponent that he was in there with that he wasn't able to get that stoppage victory. But it was still you know, for me, a career best performance overall, and I'm very, you know, I know he's going to be the goods. I know titles are in his future. That's one thing that I'm virtually 100% certain on. There are titles in his future, and I'm keen to see how he progresses. Now, going to the co-main, Jared Anderson versus Jerry Forrest. So the real big baby versus Slugger. Now, I knew Jared Anderson was going to win this fight, and I knew he was going to win this fight by knockout. I didn't think it would be in the second round though. And look, Jerry Forrest, I've always said he's a lot better than he's given credit for. He's a lot better than the journeyman status that he sometimes gets labelled with. But I thought he would sort of take, a couple shots kind of early, maybe get a little bit of rhythm rounds, maybe 3, 4, 5, and ultimately maybe get taken out around the 6th or the 7th. That's how I kind of saw it happening. But oh no, like both of them basically threw bombs from the first round, and Slugger actually started with the bombs. Like he was initially, Jared Anderson came out in southpaw stance unexplainably, and was getting out jabbed and out fought by a Forrest when he was in southpaw, and he even got caught with a very big left, he caught with a sweeping right and the overhand left as well. Which forced him to have to switch to orthodox, which is the normal style. Then he started actually getting his jab off a bit quicker. But that being said, he got hit with some big shots by Forrest, and Forrest can crack. So at this point in time, I've got to assume that Jared Anderson's chin is up to par. He wasn't visibly wobbled or hurt by any of the shots. He was rocked, like they definitely caught his attention, but he wasn't like distressed or anything. So that chin definitely holds up. But the shots that he took, like straight away, I was like, whoa, this might be a little bit of an upset coming here. But no, after that, it's like he just went straight beast mode all of a sudden. Yeah, Jerry Forrest was pretty much just pinned in the corner, taking shot after shot. He was landing, he did land on some counters, so I got to give him his props. But it was almost like every time he was getting swung on, he just started screaming. You heard this big grimace come from him. His mouth's wide open. He looks scared. It looks like it's weird to see the reaction that was coming from him. But again, he was also exchanging in the trades. So I know the ref was just dying to jump in, but Forrest was like, well, no, I'm gonna throw these hands, and if you jump in, it's gonna look mad fishy. Second round comes. It sort of started off a little bit of the same, but Jared managed to back him up in the corner again. Forrest did try to throw a couple times, but ultimately Jared ended up catching him with a high shot just behind the back of the ear, which folded Forrest over. He kind of had his arms up like this, and all of a sudden they just kind of fell down. Jared walked off, and at that point the ref jumped in and waved it off. I know Forrest, I think he was complaining a little bit, like, why'd you stop it? Like, I was still kind of in it. And look, if we've seen his track record, the amount of times he's gone down and got back up in fights and still managed to, to sort of hang on, it's fair enough to assume that that's something that possibly could have happened. But realistically, there was only ever going to be one outcome, and the real big baby does it again. So congrats to Jared Anderson. Now moving over to Teofimo Lopez versus Sandor Martin. This was one of those predictions that I got right. Totally, 100% I got this one right, because I said that Sandor Martin will win this fight in the eyes of the people, but he won't get it on the judges' scorecards, and he'll end up getting probably like a split decision win to Teofimo Lopez. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. Now look, Teofimo, there was a knockdown in, I think it was the 7th round or the 8th round that wasn't called a knockdown, which was a lot more legitimate a knockdown than the one that was called in the 2nd. But to me, they were both legitimate knockdowns for Sandor Martin, so he was very unlucky with that one. Teofimo was basically in counterpunch mode against someone that's a pure boxer that doesn't give you opportunities to counterpunch. It's like he has no plan B, no way to change up the style, and unless he's well schooled and well drilled in what he's doing, it looks funny. And yeah, it's only sort of around 8, 9 and 10 where we actually just realized, okay, I actually have to push forward and I have to create the opportunities. I can't wait for them anymore. And yeah, I mean, I had the fight 5-5 with obviously the 1 point deduction for the knockdown, so I had it 94-95 Sandor Martin. There was 4 rounds that I definitely gave to Sandor. One of them was a swing. I swung it his way because he just did better in that round, but it was quite easily could have been the other way. But I could definitely have seen this fight also being scored 95-94 to Lopez, so which would have basically meant 6 rounds to 4 rather than the 5-5. I couldn't give Sandor any more than 5 rounds, so Teofimo winning the fight isn't necessarily an issue. What is an issue is the scorecards that were given. There was a 97-92 card, which basically means that Teofimo won 8 rounds out of 10, with 2 of them going to Sandor, and the other card was 96-93, which basically meant he won 7 rounds and Sandor won 3. Both of those cards to me are atrocious because Sandor clearly won 4 rounds at minimum in that fight. There was 4 rounds definite. There was one that maybe, so even if you don't give him the 5th, it should have always been a 94 on his side of the card, in my opinion. And I think most people who watched it, who've been on Twitter, will probably say similar things. To me, at the moment, since the Kambosos fight, even since the Lomachenko fight, to be honest, Teofimo, he doesn't look like he's that guy anymore. So he's going to have to improve a lot. He's had 2 coaches that have been in the corner that have been both excommunicated by his dad. I think his dad needs excommunication from the corner, and I think he needs to go back to a well-schooled and well-seasoned trainer, because so far this combination, this duo, it's not it. And that's all I really got to say about that. And last but not least, I haven't seen the fight yet, as I said earlier, but I've seen the knockout of Terence Crawford against Avanesyan, and yeah, it's probably the cleanest knockout I've seen from Terence ever. I don't think I've never seen him sleep someone out cold, slumped on the floor before like that. And it was, you know, off of a 1-2 counter. It was a counter 1-2 combo. The left straight with the right hook, over, you know, out from the peripheral side of the vision. And yeah, Avanesyan was just out cold on the floor, barely moving. Yeah, and this is what Terence Crawford does after 13 months out the ring. So if he fights at any point within the next 5 to 6 months, whether it's Errol Spence or anyone else, I do not see it going well for them. He definitely was proven, based off of that knockout, that he's been angry at the inactivity and the failed negotiations and everything of that nature. So yeah, let's hurry up and get Spence Furman out the way, so that we can, you know, we can get that, you know, we can hopefully get that Crawford and Spence fight, or however it's going to play out with that. If Spence has to go and fight Boots Ennis after that, then cool. Terence, go up to 154, fight Jamal Charlo like you've been talking, and yeah, let's just keep things ticking along so that, you know, these belts can stop getting stagnated and people's careers can stop being, you know, drug out and strung along. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. You'll see the rest of me tomorrow, Monday Night Smoke, Undefeated Podcast. You'll also see me on the Breakdown on Tuesday, Undefeated Podcast, and then I will have some more of my own stuff coming out later on in the week, so I'll keep you up to date on that. I'll put stuff in the community tab since I opened up the other day, so you guys can kind of see as and when stuff is going to drop a little more consistently than before. But for now, I'm gonna go jump in the shower real quick. So thank you very much for tuning in, and yeah, that's the weekend wrapped up, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.